Can you explain the demiurge and this whole matrix that we live in?
The demiurge is basically the embodiment of the Metatronic overlay. And the Metatronic overlay is where you live in a dualistic paradox. The demiurge in itself is based on illusions. And the illusion is operated by way of polarity. So somebody's truth can also be a lie, and somebody's lie can be the truth. So sometimes you got to operate from a place of reality, because reality is a state of existence that can't be manipulated. So everything in the Metatronic overlay in the dualistic paradox, it operates by way of emotion, because emotion is another way to feed off your life force. Your life force in ancient Hinduism is your prana, and your prana is what creates your macabre, to where you're able to escape the demiurge, because the macabre is cultivated by geometric energy fields. Because the carbon body in itself is photovoltaic, we have the ability to convert gamma radiation into biotonic light. The Metatronic overlay is what created physical existence of what we call the demiurge. The demiurge is what you call hell. Hell is actually the personification of the third dimension merged in with the lower fourth dimension. So when you get into the Gnostic text, it talks about the archonic forces. The archons are basically the same thing as the 200 fallen angels when you're talking about the cherubim in the Bible in the book of Enoch. But these same entities are actually draconian reptilian, and they feed off the sustenance of human beings when you're talking about the Metatronic overlay that is connected to the cube of Saturn, because Saturn and the moon is the external hard drive of planet Earth. So it's a sustenance, it's basically a cesspool to feed off the life force of the chosen ones, of the 144,000. This system is being used as a catalyst to trap souls. That's what the demiurge is for. That's why you have a veneration for sex, money, drugs, and all these things that's connected to a form of external stimulation, because it's another way to keep you outside of yourself. Everything's internal. Even when you look at it from the Hermetic laws, as above, so below, as within, so without. Whatever's taking place in the cosmos is happening with your genetic format and your neurological faculties as well. We do live in a prison planet, because God of the Bible is actually the devil. He separated the intergalactic waters from the third dimension and created the firmament. The firmament is the embodiment of the spiritual cutoff that created the demiurge. So this is why you don't have levitation and you can't fly like Superman and all this other shit, is because we have a firmament. We're stuck inside of a prison planet, because the prison planet in itself is what created the subatomic particles that gives you the illusion of physical matter. The illusion of physical matter is when you're talking about people, places, and possessions. Those are all the illusions that keep you stuck in this demiurge.
Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back. Beloved, this is indeed your brother Big VJ checking in. Today's conversation, we're going to talk religion. We're going to talk spirituality. And we're going to ultimately talk about the relationship between the spirit world and the material world, right? We're going to talk concepts today, right? So, yes, indeed, beloved, we're going to do that. Shout out to our brother Slizzy _bad from Instagram, who dropped this on us. It was a video, and we took a look at it. It was a brother. He was kicking information. So we're gonna give our thoughts on about what that brother was saying, and we're gonna do our best to add on to his conversation, right? Before we do that, I want to say this. I want to say thank you to everybody that reached out to us and sent your condolences to myself and my family. We appreciate it. You know, I'm a humble guy. I don't take nothing for granted. You know, I know it just takes so many seconds, so many minutes to do anything, but it's a difference when somebody do it for you. You see what I'm saying? So, beloved, I appreciate that. I just want to say thank you for that. There's a couple of things today that I want to talk about, and it's good to kind of set it up with a foundation. So there's a position of how to look at spiritual information, and that position is called a path, right? So there's a thing called the right hand path and the left hand path. Now, if you come on this podcast, you will hear us say that every now and then, the right hand path, and then we'll say the left hand path. Oh, that's left hand path information. We'll do it kind of like that, right? So I just want to explain what I really mean when I be using those terms. The right hand path is like, it's an orthodox way of looking at the spiritual world. It's like, it's orthodox. There's no other way I can say it. So if you're a Muslim, if you're a Christian, if you believe in Judaism, you know, whatever you believe in, if it's the orthodox way that you see it, that's what we call the right hand path. And then there's another path called the left hand path, and that's when you view spiritual information through a esoteric lens or an exoteric lens, or if you go deep left, right? This is what we call deep left. That's called occultism. That's when you start marrying up information with symbolism, and it's real hidden, and it's like, that's different, right? So when we talk about the Demiurge today, it's kind of like on the left hand path. And there's a couple of teachers that I'm gonna talk about today that they went very deep, far into the occultism to break down the Demiurge and what that mean and what it's about and how they come about, and they go and do the whole nine, right? Now, if we just take a look at the Christian world, that world is a very big world. It's just not, it's a conglomerate, let me say it that way. So somebody just saying they're a Christian, the way we translate that is they just a Bible believer of the New Testament. But if you want to see what a person really believes, you have to say, well, what kind of Christian are you? What is your denomination? Because the Demiurge technically falls underneath that concept, is from a Christian sect called the Gnostics. But you got a lot of Christian sects. You got the Gnostics, you got the Catholics, you got those that call themselves non-denomination, but they got a doctrine that they go by. You got the Protestants, the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witness, the Baptists, Methodists, Pentecostals. They all do not believe the same thing. So it's key to find out, well, what is your denomination? Because there's no Christian heaven. The Baptists got their own heaven. The Methodists got their own heaven. The Gnostics got their own. Everybody got their own heaven, right? The Gnostics have a figure called the Demiurge, and the Demiurge is it's an entity called Yaldabaoth, right? And the way it's set up is like it's a relationship between the unseen world and the seen world, and the spiritual world. It was put in a prison. It was put in a prison of the material, but the real importance and essence of life is in the spiritual. But it was trapped. The spiritual world was trapped by an entity, by a god named Yaldabaoth, that put everything in the physical prism, which put it in the prison. So it's just like, that's their viewpoint. And check it out. They go so far to say that Yaldabaoth is the same entity as the Jewish God Yahweh, because Yahweh was a maker. Yahweh as an Elohim, he came in a place as a maker. He made Adam. Adam was a made man. And we are taught, beloved, that it's a very big difference between a creator and a maker, right? A creator is that which makes from emptiness, from nothingness. It's nothing there. It's absolutely nothing. And they will this nothingness into existence. It all starts in the mind, because we know all is the mind and the universe is mental. It starts in the mind first. And they will from nothingness into the ingredients of the atoms and elements and everything. And then they take that and they make the finished product, which is somethingness, right? A maker is not like so. A maker is like you and I as human beings, we're good examples, well, we're excellent examples of makers. We have chairs, we have televisions, we have lawnmowers, you have cell phones, you have beds, sofas, recliners, you got cars, you got all this kind of stuff, right? Well, you made it. You use raw material and you fashioned it, and then you made the finished product. You didn't create anything. So Adam wasn't a created being. He was a made being. He was actually made from the poor part of the planet Earth, which is called the dust of the earth. All the ingredients that made the Adam, that ruddy man, it was already on the planet. He just was made, right, as a man. Now, we're going to have a conversation about the spiritual and the material, but I want to say this. I want to throw some names out. There's a couple of teachers that came through our village that taught occultism. And the deeper knowledge of the Gnostics is in occultism. And your brother VJ, I'm just not going there. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I ain't going that far. You know, I kind of do right-hand path information. I do left-hand path information all the time, but I just stay right along the esoteric. And the exoteric, I don't go as far down as occultism. There's a brother that's that was among us, two actually that I can think of right off the gate. The brother Panic is one of them named, peace be upon him, he's no longer here. And the big brother Bobby Hemmett, who was a master teacher in occultism, peace be upon him, he's no longer here. They was masters in that left-hand path. That means they went all the way to the end of occultism. Generally, the teachers that I listen to are left-hand path, but they are esoteric and exoteric. This is what you call consciousness. Like, it's not orthodox. It's not right-hand path. It's esoteric. That's Mr. Muhammad. That's Malachi Z. York, right? There's a lot of Malachi Z. Yorks in the world. That was left-hand path, esoteric, exoteric information. One of my favorites is a brother named C. Freeman L. He's a master teacher, esoteric. So I'm gonna give an example of the two. A Christian preacher, right? That's talking about the resurrection. He's going to do that in the right-hand path. We're talking about Reverend Ribden. So resurrection to Reverend Ribden is this: a human being is going to live, a human being is going to die, right? He lived his whole life, he's going to die, he's going to decay in the ground, but that it doesn't matter, because one day something's going to happen and his body going to come back, boom, overnight, and he going to get back up out of the casket, out of the grave, and walk around again. That's what Rip Denner calls resurrection. Now, a esoteric minister is not going to look at it that way. That's just symbolism. Nobody's really going to get back out the ground no more. So Mr. Muhammad taught esoteric. Resurrection was not the physical coming back up again. It was the mental. The 85% is deaf, dumb, and blind. So they are in need, which is our people, of a mental resurrection. Nobody's going to go to the ground and come back up. This is how esoteric teachers teach. Nobody going to go to the ground and come back up. No. So the way that it's often taught is everything is on a high form of science, mathematics, chemistry, and technology. That's pretty much esoteric teaching. I give another example. Reverend Ribden would teach that what's the guy in the book that the Jewish biblical text, he got thrown over the, what's the guy name? Jonah. They'd teach that Jonah, he was thrown overboard, right? And then while he in the water, a whale came and picked him up, ate him. Didn't eat him. He just kind of lived in the belly of a whale for like 3 days. How many of us ever heard that story? Because many of us grew up in vacation Bible school, right? Okay, an esoteric teacher would say, well, that part of the planet, which we call the Middle East, there is no real great whales that live there. So it's an allegory for something else. What you would see some esoteric teachers do is say, well, the Elohim, which is what the Hebrews call God. They're not saying God like black folks are saying God. When the Hebrews and the Semitics, the Jews are saying God, they're really using the term called Elohim. The Elohim are flesh and bone beings. They have the same kind of like, well, let me say it this way. In the heavens, on the higher realm, that's where the Elohim dominate, flesh and bone in the celestial world, right? Then you have the terrestrial human being, which is us, and we dominate on the earthly physical plane. So we are only one-dimensional. We can't lead this third dimension. But there's another group, this is concept. These are the Elohims that live on the celestial world. They can come down, but we are in the image of them. So if they are the image, then beloved, the human beings are the imagers. That's all that is. So you can get happy, sad, you can become jealous, you can become envious. It's all in your emotional setup. Yet the Elohim is made the same way. He's just a higher form of being, and he comes with a higher level of intelligence and technology. His lifespan is longer. He's just you magnified, I don't know, 100 times, 1,000 times over. But the interesting thing about this concept is that you are made as a human being out of the same material as him. We talking about sons of El. In any event, these Elohims came to the planet with a high form of technology. So when you're reading the Jewish biblical text, these are nomadic people, goat herders and shepherds and all this old kind of deal. They have a level of them that are scribes, and they are trying to write and document a form of technology that they are not accustomed to, but they can only use their words to do it. You see what I'm saying? So imagine trying to explain what a missile is 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. How would you explain a missile? It's not in a language. There's no word for it. How would you describe an aircraft, a UFO? How would you describe it 3,000 years ago? There's no word for it. So you start seeing things like flying chariots. We know chariots don't fly, but they don't have it in their language to use any other word, right? Okay, so let me just spin the block. Let me go back to the point I was going to make. An esoteric teacher would say that the Elohims dispatched out a submarine, and this is where Jonah was caught in the mouth of a submarine. But the nomads of that time, they could not write. They didn't know how to write that form of technology down. It didn't exist. So the best that they could do is say, well, it was a great fish that swallowed him. It was a whale. But we know whales you can't live in a whale. You see what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's all based on belief. But it's a way that esoteric teachers, they go about providing a different answer, the inner meaning of what was really going on. I give another example. Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Right-hand path teacher would say, well, there was some fire and brimstone fell out of the heaven. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, boom, we got that. Esoteric teacher come back and say, it wasn't fire and brimstone. It was an aircraft that dropped missiles. They both are pretty much saying the same thing. One is saying, no, it's a different meaning of what's going on. It's not spooky, in other words. It ain't no spooky kind of like, excuse me for lack of a better word. It's not like no abracadabra kind of like stuff going on. It's just a high form of technology. But the Negro that's on the right-hand path, he won't see it that way. It's all belief, but he just doesn't see it that way. The Negro will really believe that Moses went to the end of he went to a water bank, and hundreds of millions of gallons of water spread it out of the way. And dude and a bunch of people just walked across on dry land. Like, that's just how the Negro is going to see it. So it's just different ways of how to break down the allegory. And there's left-hand path teachers, and we are accustomed to the right-hand path teachers. So today, beloved, we're going to talk a lot about a left-hand path way of describing and interpreting the spiritual with the material, right? Gnostics have a way where they kind of dabble into occultism, and I'm not going to go that far. Again, Brother Panic, he have content out, books all over the place. And Brother Bobby Hemmett, you know, I would tap into Brother Bobby Hemmett first, because he was a master teacher. He was Brother Panic's teacher. You see what I'm saying? And he went deep into occultism, so much so I want to say this as well. If we went into a library or a bookstore of sorts, right? I'm talking about you and I, anybody. Occultism is, it's on that left-hand path, but it's a building block to get there, right? You are steered away from left-hand path information by those that teach the right-hand path, the orthodox way. So when you see a book in the bookstore and it got the image of Pan on it, which we call Baphomet today, but you see the image of Pan on it and a bunch of 6-point stars or 5-point stars, or you'll see something on the book that says something like, the cover would be like it has something to do with spells or something. Being that you came out of a right-hand path institution, that's going to immediately scare you, right? Bobby Hemmett used to teach that that's done on purpose. The real knowledge and hidden meanings of things is in occultism, and you can only get this knowledge through those type of books, or you have to go through like the Masonic lodges or the Elks, or they have different fraternities that tell the hidden meaning, which is a real occultism when you marry up the symbolism which with the allegory, right? And he uses, one of the examples he used all the time was back in the early, I want to say 80s, maybe late 70s. They don't use it anymore now. When you used to get a bleach bottle, you used to see in the back of the bleach bottle, it was it have like two bones in the back with a skull. That was the imagery of poison. Now, the bone, the image of the bones with the skull in the front, that wasn't poison. That's just that was a sign of death. But that was a sign to say if you ingest this bleach, it would cause death. You understand what I'm saying? But it was a meaning behind the symbolism. That was poison. That was how you put the symbolism with what was going on. Those kind of symbols are placed all over the place in books, in literature, because they're speaking to a people that you have to give them signs. But if you see that today, we wouldn't know what that means. We see the skull and bones. We say, oh, okay, don't drink that. It's poison. When I was coming up, that should be on like every chemical bottle. Now today, they use a more superior form to identify hazmat or hazardous materials. They use a more modern form. They don't use a bunch of well, I think the toxic label is still the same. They still got, you know, the cross and board. Other than that, it's like they did away with it. Now, 1,000 years from now, somebody else will look at that like that was some spooky, demonic kind of look, y'all, they got some skull and bone. It never meant that. So occultism is showing you the hidden meaning behind what the symbols really mean. But if you come from a right-hand path, they're going to spook you out of it. Well, listen, beloved, I'm one of the ones. Because I came from a right-hand path. You know, I come out the church house, beloved. Nah, I ain't, Your brother ain't going out there. I'm like, nah. You see Pan on the front of the book? I'm like, nah, I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with the esoteric, you know, and the exoteric. But I'm not going to do any occultism, right? I want to talk about what we know. And we're going to talk about knowledge, what we know. and also want to tap into the spiritual and the material, and we're going to do it on the left hand path, but we're just going to stay on the esoteric meaning, and I'm going to talk about how it originally was for us and what it is today, right? We, beloved, will never argue over what we know. Knowledge is power. How many of us heard that phrase before? Knowledge is power. They didn't say belief is power. Nobody walked around and said faith is power. Nobody ever said hope is power, right? We had a brother that sold us some hope years ago in the political world, and what did that get us? Different story for a different day. Knowledge is power. You don't bicker over knowledge. Everybody can come together in the oneness. 2 + 2 = 4. That's knowledge. That's not going to change 1,000 years from now. We don't need nobody to come out with a it's new revised. Ain't gonna be no new revelation about 2 + 2. 2 + 2 gonna always equal 4. Water is always going to freeze at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, period. Water is always going to boil at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, period. This is knowledge. This is what we know. Belief, it doesn't work that way. Brother Daniel Shabazz used to always say, belief will get you killed, because it's just belief. It's not a good foundation for anything. But belief is imperative when you want to make a slave. Our people came off the plantations. In this country, the hills of North America and the territory that we call the United States, we wasn't given any knowledge. Knowledge make you unfit to be a slave. So they got to feel you and our forefathers and foremothers head with something. They got to give them something. So they gave our mothers and our fathers religion on purpose to keep you deaf, dumb, and blind. It wasn't to free you. It was to keep you deaf, dumb, and blind of knowledge. Nobody, even in a, because we talking. Even in the Jewish world, in their allegory, Adam ate off a tree that had the fruit of good and evil. It was the knowledge of good and evil. He didn't eat off the tree of belief. If you present a man with 2 doors or 2 options, and he had the option to know something, to have the knowledge of something, or he had, he can get the belief of something, that man will always choose to know. He will always choose the knowledge over belief, which means when you start seeing a whole pool and host of believers, they really don't want to be believers. They are only believers because they are attached to an institution that will not give them any knowledge on anything.
Message.
We came out of the plantation where our former slave masters made sure that they gave us belief. I mean, an abundance of belief. And belief just keeps your mind going and going and going. And in order to keep belief going, they got to give you more belief. And then they got to give you more belief. Now you're on a hamster wheel. You're learning all day about nothingness. It's just belief. Knowledge is what's going to make you free. Even going back to the Jewish biblical text. How does that phrase go? My people are destroyed for a lack of... Nobody says people are destroyed for a lack of belief. They got a lack of hope. They got a lack of faith. No, they have a lack of knowledge. They don't know anything. That's what destroys the people. So that's what, beloved, that's what destroyed us. We didn't know anything. The way that we originally looked at from the ancients that was among us, the spiritual world and the material world was this way. It was a marriage. The material world and the spiritual world, they coexisted together. The way that the slave master taught us, he taught us different. He said that the spiritual world lives separately away from the material world. Now let's stop. Let's think about that. That's how come you get around Christians, it gets spooky now. That's how come you get around a bunch of Muslims, it gets spooky, because they teach, and keep in mind, we on planet Earth, we in the third dimension. The physical is the most prominent and dominant here on this planet, not the spiritual. So when you look at indigenous religions, we talking about the original man, you'll see the trinity of the man, the woman, and the child. Notice that no matter where you go in Africa, when you get in certain parts of the Americas, we're talking about in the islands, in South America, and Central, you will see the union, man, woman, and child. We're going to talk about the esoteric meaning of that. When you start getting into the Semitic world, you don't see that. You see another union. You see the man and child, or you would just see the man, or the third one, you would see the man, the spirit, and then the child, but they're all masculine. Now we're going to talk about the meaning behind that, right? The man, woman, and child, which we come out of, this is the tradition we come out of. The man and the woman equals life. Father, mother, you see the child, it equals life, right? Now let's go to the esoteric. The mother is the representation of the material. The father is the representation of the spiritual. Them two together equals the child, which makes the material coexisting with the spiritual. It's a oneness now. See, that's the play. Okay. Semitic world, it ain't like that. You will see what they would say the father, then it's like a ghost, but this ghost is masculine. And then you see the son, which obviously is masculine, right? Now, let me just stop right there. If we just seen a march, we just hanging out downtown, and there's some people marching. There's two different groups marching. We seen one group marching, and they had an image of a father, a mother, and a child is hanging on their posters, and they're walking, right? And then you looked on the other side, and then there was another group marching, and they had a father, another masculine kind of like entity right next to the father, and then he had a child, but the child was a son, and they're marching as the original man. What group that you think that you would naturally be drawn to? The one that represents you. You would go to the one and say, all right, well, this is the mother, father, and child thing. That's kind of like our thing. That Semitic thing, that ain't really our thing. We don't have no, and again, it's not a representation of homosexuality. I don't want you to take it that far. That's the representation of how they're going to present the spiritual world. That's the all males. Spirit, spirit, spirit. Right? All right. We didn't have that original concept in our people. It was man, woman, child. The spirit world coexisting with the material world. Now let's take a look at the planet that we live on, and let's see what do we see on the planet that we live on. On this physical plane, we see that the physical outlives the spiritual. It's not the other way around. Reverend Ribden is kicking that because he got some demonology talk he kicking and all this devil talk and about how much all these spirits can live outside of the material. But on this planet, we don't see that. We see that the spirit is the wind, is the ruach, is the energy behind the material, right? The material is our bodies, and the spirit is the energy. Spirit is energy. It's the energy that moves this physical around. It's a marriage. If you're living, you're in the land of the living, I'm in the land of the living, we see that the spirit and the physical coexist together. It's like electricity. You know, if I plug up my clock, the date, everything, it works. But if I unplug the clock, the electricity, it just went back to the source. But the clock is still here. It's in the physical form. Your house, beloved, everything is in it. It's full of the physical that once had a spirit that no longer has a spirit, but the physical is still here. So your coffee table, your sofa, your dining room table, you know, your floors, anything that's wood in your house, it once was living as a tree. Once that tree was cut down, that tree went into the position of death. It's decaying, right? That's that source of energy that kept that tree alive for a couple hundred years. It's going back to the source. That spirit went back to the source that sent it to the tree. Now what you have is the physical still present. That presence of the physical is going to live longer and last longer in the third dimension. It's a physical realm here. That spirit doesn't live without the material on this planet. That's how we was originally taught. So I want to suggest a book, right? There's a book that I want to suggest, because we ain't just walking around like we the most intelligent people. We know everything. Everything comes from something. We're all learning from something and somebody. There's a brother named Dr. Wesley Muhammad, right? He's a minister in the nation. And he wrote a book way back in the G, beloved, and I have it. It was made in like 1999. And the name of it is The Proof That the Black Man is God. Slizzy Righteous, if you're listening, because I know the brother name is Slizzy_bad, and we okay with that. Just for today, we're gonna call the brother Slizzy Righteous today. That'd be an excellent book to take a look at, and I believe you don't even have to go as far as the first chapter, because it talks about the relationship between the spiritual and the material, right? Now, again, you go and look at the semantics, it's different. You know, everything gets spiritual, 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 and that's how you kind of like, if you want to keep a people a slave, you keep it that way because of this. Again, I can use a dozen examples about how the material, it lasts longer on this planet. You know, when we make our transition and we die, that spirit, that energy that keeps us alive, it's going to go back to the source it came from. But our physical bodies is still going to be here. That's where you got to go through the funeral process and put everything in the grave. Whoop, whoop. It's going. That's how that works. So we see that. Okay, so we got that part. When you're born into this world, it's the third dimension. It ain't no spooks and jumping around. You know, you listen to some of these folks, they act like the spooks got more energy than the physical. No, they do not. You can live without spiritual food on this plane. You don't even need no quote unquote spiritual food. You need natural food to live here, right? That natural food that you're eating once had a spirit. The plants have a spirit. The fruits have a spirit. The animals that you're eating, they once had a spirit. Then they're plucked up from their connection to life. They go into the realm of death. You save them and you eat them. It's the physical that you eat and digest to keep the physical going, but it's the spirit that's giving you the energy. But they coexist. What is spiritual water? How many of us is drinking spiritual water? That's what you hear in the religious houses. Come get your spiritual food. Spiritual water, okay, cool. But we can live without that. On this plane, we don't really need that. We need natural. You got to get you some natural water, though. You got to have it. So, what's going on in this planet is that there was hundreds of thousands of religions, and these religions were connected to tribes, people groups, etc. Right? But dig this. This is what happens, though. You know what eliminated thousands of religions? Knowledge did. Math, science, chemistry, technology eliminated thousands upon thousands of gods that was on this planet that men believed in. And we kind of touched on that in our last conversation when we were talking about the Elohims, and we talked about an Elohim named Baal or Baal. He was like a rain god, a storm god, all of that. Okay, but okay, that's what that was. Well, who needs a rain god now? No, we have a technology about how to put together waste and water plants, and we don't need that no more. Nobody needs a rain god anymore. Who's praying for a god of crops? We saying we waiting for a good. Who has a agricultural god? Nobody. We understand the science of seed time and harvest. So nobody. This planet is electrified with energy already. So the spirit world that they trying to kick to you, it's like they have to keep you in this state of being to keep you out the pool of having knowledge, because once you have knowledge, you become their competitor. But again, I gotta say it this way. There were thousands upon thousands of gods that these little tribes that they used to worship and make sacrifices for, hurt themselves, human sacrifices, sacrifice children, all this kind of stuff. To get rain, to get the kind of weather they wanted and all that. They thinking they was like, I don't know, waking up the gods or whatever. But what eliminated these gods was knowledge. Math, science, chemistry, and technology. It put them to rest. Now just imagine this, beloved. Imagine this. Imagine a brother that practiced the Ephi religion, a Christian, and a Muslim. They all sitting at the table together, eating lunch, right? The Ephi talking about Orishas, the Muslim talking about jinns, which is like his form of like demons and spirit world, all that old kind of stuff. And then the Christian talking about demons and all this other kind of stuff. Now, this is how interesting that conversation would be. The Christian will look at the brother that practiced Ephi and talking about all this Orisha stuff, and immediately he'll know, man, that's foolishness. It doesn't even make any sense. He knows right off the gate. It's internal, like, man, that stuff ain't even real. He kind of knows it, like, man, them Orishas ain't really, you ain't no power in that. Now, I'm gonna tell you what's going to go on the other side with the brother that's Ephi. He looking at the Christian stuff. And the Christian brother talking about all these demons and all this going on, principalities. He got all this soul ties. He got all this kind of stuff he think he got going on. But the guy that practices Ephi, he know that's foolishness. He's like, nah, they don't work like that. And then the Muslim sitting back, he think both of them is foolish. But see, all of them, that's what belief does. It's not based on no knowledge. Now, if you asked original man, he sit at the table with all of them, and they talking demon talk and all this spirit talk. He'll ask them to show and prove. Well, show and prove, beloved, make that knowledge born. But you can only make knowledge born. You can't make belief born. They wouldn't be able to manifest it. It's not, they can't. It's just a belief. And they had to throw in a whole lot of hope and faith to make it work. Man, nobody finna, this is the physical realm. This is why it was important that we had certain kind of teachers that come to us, because we were stuck in a place where it'd be easier to make us a slave because we had no knowledge of anything. We only had belief. And once you get that black man and black woman on that belief train, you can always give them another revelation. Man, it's kind of like, I'm impressed that, they can keep some of this stuff going for so long. That's when the plantation owners were smart. They turned over everything to the spiritual world. That's why you see the three males there. It's a representation of all spirit, no matter where you go. Where's it? Because if you ask for the manifestation of something, oh, it's a spirit. Where's the father? Oh, the father's a spirit. Well, where's the other part of the deity? Oh, it's a spirit too. Well, where's the sun at right now? Well, that is a spirit too. Well, where's the manifestation? No, that comes later. And what's later? Either it's going to be somebody coming out the sky, or when you die. That's when you. So let me get this right. You going to tap into death to see the manifestation of that which is physical, yeah, that's how it's going to work. That doesn't really make, but that's the hustle. I don't want to call it a hustle. That's the concept. Now, dig this, Don. Dig this. I'm perfectly okay with beliefs because I got my own beliefs. Beloved, your brother VJ, he got some beliefs too. Do I feel like our people should be doing missionary work at this point of our existence in America? No. If you got a guy, let the guy talk now. We didn't talk for God for 300 years. Reverend Rip Dinner got up there. He spoke for God. All these ministers, they talk for God. Well, let's put the microphone up and let's let God talk for himself. We're behind on the knowledge tip. We have TVs in our home. We couldn't make a TV if we needed to. We have refrigerators in our home. We couldn't make the refrigerator if we needed to. Why? Because we have no knowledge. We have belief. But when it's time to cut your grass, belief ain't gonna cut your grass. You need a lawnmower. Do you have the knowledge of making a lawnmower? No, you don't. So you're gonna always keep these other people that do have the knowledge and power. Because you just running around on belief. And what makes it worse, we have a belief that somebody's going to jump out the sky and do something for you. You can't get no worse than that. Somebody gonna do something for you. Brother DJ, I talked about this before. Man, he doing some work for our people. And he talking about he had to get out there and build a road. And them folks sitting up in the church house, they said they were waiting on Jesus to build them a road. I'm like, what? But it took him as a man. His blood, sweat, and tears had to go, and he had to do it. We all original people, but look where their mind was at. Somebody else is, the knowledge is not there, the belief is there. Beloved, our people is eating pork, hog maw, ribs, chitlins. Do you see how we look, beloved, after we turn 40 and 50? You can see that pork is it come all out of our skin. Our skin don't even shine no more. It started making your skin kind of crater-like, and your eyes don't even get white anymore after all those years of pork. You have like a glossy yellow. It stays a little red tint now, like you just never get enough rest. That's the worms running through your system from that pork. But you know what we were taught in belief? You can pray, no knowledge now. You can pray over that pork and eat it. You can pray over the pork and eat it. And we're taking, if I could just, the pharmaceutical world is making a killing out of black folks, because I know we running through that hypertension medicine, and that's all right, because take the medicine, because I don't want to, take the medicine. But we're running through, I can imagine all the millions of dollars that we're spending on diabetes medicine and hypertension medicine and all that, which a lot of that we could have corrected with a good diet. But somebody taught us, you can eat what you want. I don't care if it's scavenger food. I don't care if the designer made that animal to be like a trash collector on the earth. No, you can cook it and eat it and you'll be all right. Why? Because you're going to pray to the spiritual world to fix that which is natural. It doesn't work. We can't pray over Wild Irish Rose. We can't pray over St. Ives. It's not going to work. We can't pray over Hennessy. It's not going to work. So we got to get a better understanding of the relationship between the spiritual and the material, because it's one. It's not two. And this plane is just one that's dominant. Let me say that. The physical is the most dominant. That's how our people originally seen this concept. The Semitics seen it another way. And now we're looking interesting because we are a original man with a European name, with a European tongue, with a Semitic spirituality system. which makes us no longer original. And I think, beloved, it's time to just go back to being who you are, and that's the original man, and we're going to leave it there. Peace and black power to you, family. Yes. Thank you guys so much for listening and hanging out. Beloved, this is indeed Real Black Content Form Podcast. Hey, man, it's your brother V, man. I'm going to get it with you guys later. Peace, beloved, and more peace.
And what we're talking about as far as real intelligence is concerned is nature, mundane and divine. When I say divine, I'm talking about that which is invisible, not just that which is above us. The divinity is also down here, and it's within yourself. And we need to know that consciously. That does not mean you go to church to get divinity. You already have it. Okay? You're already a divine being, but you need to know that. Know the truth. And not believe it, know it. To know, you must study. You know? And the highest order of study is to hear. Okay? You know, that's an important key. Because your higher self, your soul self, already knows who and what you are. But we don't pay attention to ourselves. See, we're not conscious. Okay? When you're not paying attention to yourself, you're not self-conscious. You're operating by your glands, which means the 12 signs become more significant in your personal world because you're being operated by, moved by, propelled by the energy of the planetary system in which we live. The less conscious a human being is, the more he's being moved by forces beyond his own consciousness. The more conscious he is, the less, because he becomes more self-guided, divinely guided. When I say self, I'm talking higher. So, okay. To study this science and not to be able to apply it to your own individual state of affairs, it makes it a futile effort, useless. What the good is to know something about everybody else and you don't know how to apply the knowledge you have to yourself. That's a major key of self-knowledge.
Thanks for listening. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google, Anchor, Spotify, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment on the podcast. Your opinion of what you just heard is important to the platform. So yes, beloved, your comments are the engine and fuel to the machine. Stay blessed and have a powerful day.